All right, appreciate everyone for joining us for Penn State Football Media Day. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open up to questions.
So it's great to see everybody back. Appreciate y'all coming out to cover Penn State football as always, practices and games. Entering my 12th season at Penn State, it's been an honor to lead the program and be a part of the community. Preseason camp began on Wednesday. We've had 2 practices so far, which I think you guys are aware of. About to have practice number 3 today. You guys will get a chance to get out there and see some of it, which will be great. Really proud of how hard the guys worked all summer. We've got a really good summer period. The testing numbers have backed it up. As you guys know, we have 12 years of data to compare and contrast in terms of strength numbers, in terms of speed. So that data has been impressive. Chuck Losey and his staff continue to do a phenomenal job. We've got a lot of stability with that staff, and Chuck has done a great job. As you know, Chuck's been with me all 15 years as a head coach, and when Dwight Galt retired, took over and has done a phenomenal job. As I mentioned at Big Ten Media Days, really excited about the additions we've made to our staff. Jim Knowles and Stan Drayton, both guys with head coaching experience, both guys with national championship experience. So been great having them, and they're doing a phenomenal job. I said it at Big Ten Media Days. I think when you look at all of our personnel, not just the players, but the staff and players, it's the best combination that we've had in my 12 years here. The depth, the experience, the talent is impressive. So that's been fun to be a part of, and I think those guys have brought tremendous experience to us. We're proud of the 19 lettermen that we have on our staff, spanning 5 decades of history, going back to the 1980s. I think it's a testament to this program, the culture that we've built, what Penn State means to so many people, that these guys want to come back and be a part of our program. And I think it's invaluable, right? Our freshmen, our sophomores, our juniors, being able to talk to these guys that have sat in their lockers, have sat in their meeting rooms, have practiced at the Lash football building, have competed in Beaver Stadium and on the road in the Big Ten. Just tremendous experience and value coming from that. So that's been awesome. Our focus in training camp, our focus is obviously on training camp, but everybody knows we'll be hosting Nevada here 4 weeks from now. Andy Mutton, who I think actually spent time there, has been very adamant about it's Nevada, not Nevada. I always want to say Nevada, but it's Nevada. He's made sure I've been clear on that. West Shore home field at Beaver Stadium may look different, but we know this place is going to be rocking like it is every single year. And probably just like me, I walked into the stadium, and from the inside of the stadium looking up, it's really impressive what they've been able to do with the temporary bleachers and things like that. So excited about that. Appreciate everybody being here again, and open up the questions.
Let's go over here to the right, Mark, and then we'll go Rich in the front.
Hey James, thanks for your time.
Hey Mark, you too, man.
Where are you health-wise as camp opens? We heard about Caden, but generally speaking, where's the team? And is there anybody else who will be limited or out for camp? Thanks.
Yeah, so the injury list is not great right now, but after today's practice, it'll change things, because what happens is you got a number of guys. We played late in the season, as everybody knows, the longest season in Penn State football history. Played late into the season, and we had some injuries that required some surgeries and things like that at the end of the season, and they're going to be considered limited until we've had a padded practice to show that they're able to do that. So some of these guys are limited up there. They're ready to go, and I think if you ask them, they could play in a game right now. But our trainers and doctors, smart, we hold them in a limited category until they actually go out and do it. So if they had an upper body extremities issue, we got to get through the first day of hitting. to clear them back to full go. So the list is a little bit longer than I probably would like, but nothing that we're concerned about, and nothing that you guys, I think, aren't already aware of. Did I answer your question?
Yep.
Yes.
Rich?
Hey,
Hello,
Roger.
James, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. How have Hudson, or how can Hudson, Ross, and Pena help the passing game in general, Drew in particular, and how have they looked so far in these first two practices?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is they're veterans that have already produced, in college football. Hudson was a captain, at his previous institution, had one of the catches of the year against LSU. Senior, veteran, mature. So that's been valuable for us. Pena's a 6-year guy. Same thing, was captain at his last school. Got a lot of maturity, got a lot of experience. I think you guys have heard me talk about this before. I compare college football in some ways now to college basketball. When the one and done started, you could have a veteran, older team to make a run, because as we know, experience and talent matters. And then Ross, didn't play, obviously, whether it's, the Big Ten or the ACC, but we were able to watch him against Iowa. I think you guys know how much respect I have for Iowa, that program defensively, special teams wise, and to be able to watch him, make plays against an Iowa defense and an Iowa team in general on special teams, gave us a lot of confidence about bringing that young man in. But they've all been great. They've been great. Some young receivers that I think you guys will get a chance to see that we're excited about as well. This kind of, hopefully closes the gap for a year and allow these guys to continue to grow and mature and step up. But we have more depth right now at wide receiver than we've had. And to your point, Rich, I think the biggest thing is we need more playmaking, at the wide receiver position for us to go where we want to go, in critical moments, in critical games. Obviously, Ty Warren and our running game, most of our offense was built around those things. I think in a lot of ways, if we continue to trend in the direction we're headed, it'll make us more difficult to defend, because if you went in the last year, it was stop the run and stop Tyler Warren, right? So having threats all over the field that can hurt you, making them just defend the 53 and a third, and obviously the 120 yards, I think will open up a lot of things for us. Will help us in the run game, but it's valuable. And I think Drew, having more people around him making plays for him, I think will be really valuable. We've all seen. We had our whole deal here. I forget who it was and what it was, but just chuck it deep, right? That whole thing that we went through as a community together. We went through it together, right? But there's some of that, right? Like, how many college football games have you watched, or even the NFL, where a quarterback chucks it up and it's double coverage and a receiver goes up like Allen Robinson used to always do and come down with it? You think about that play in the 4 overtime Michigan game, right? And then the announcers, whoever, saying, what an unbelievable throw or what an unbelievable play. Well, a lot of that, deals with the wide receiver making that play. So, that playmaking production from the wide receiver crew, from our tight ends. We've had as good of a tight end room over the last 5 years as anybody in the country, and we're excited again about that room. And then being able to use our 2 running backs in more ways. They grew dramatically last year's receivers. I expect them to take another step this year, and we want to be able to get them the ball in space as well. So a lot of weapons, a lot of people to use, but we're going to have to build on this every single day.
Over here on the right, John.
Hey James, how are you?
Good job. Very good.
Doing good. Obviously about the role that Jim knows is going to have in this defense, and you mentioned blending them in the past. Where do you feel like the defense is when it comes to blending a Penn State defense and a Jim Knowles defense, and how different is it with the players, specifically in the secondary?
Yeah, so obviously there are some tweaks and changes, and there are every year. right? Whether we keep the same coordinators or not. But the majority of it is me having a list of guys that philosophically believe how to play defensive football, similar to us and how we have done it. We've been fortunate. I think we've had 4 defense coordinators here. Every single one of them has had a top 10 defense at Penn State. So I think that was attractive to Jim. But I think it was also attractive to Jim that when he watched our tape, there's some similarities in what he believes and vice versa. So those things help. And then once you arrive, it's, okay, what needs to change? What can stay the same? And then I think the other thing is, hopefully this is his last time doing it, but he installed the defense at Duke. He installed the defense at Oklahoma State. He installed the defense at Ohio State, and no different than everything else. Every time you go through this, you get better at it as well. So he's in a really good place. Our defensive staff's in a really good place. I think we're pretty far along, but it's still day 3. But there's some tweaks and changes in the secondary. I think there's some tweaks and changes up front too. We've been predominantly, really since Manny came, an attack front defense, and we've been predominantly a man cover team, and we'll still do those things, but there are some technique changes up front in terms of how to play blocks. There's some changes, with the linebackers. Again, with Manny attack front, we were gapped out. Linebackers had a gap responsibility, and this defense requires the linebackers to play more of a traditional linebacker and read things out a little bit more. And then in the secondary, we'll just have more coverage diversity, which I think will be important because there's going to be 2 or 3 games a year where you just can't line up and play man, right? And that coverage diversity will be important for us moving forward. And those things were a lot of things that me and Jim discussed before he came here.
Back left, Allie.
Hey James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I think we've talked a lot about the monetary ways that revenue sharing NIL can impact your players, but particularly now as you emerge into yet another new college football, how can those monetary discussions help players understand maybe more about contracts or the services exchanged from both sides, particularly as you send guys on into the NFL and they start doing that. Now they're not doing it as rookies necessarily, but they could be doing it in college. And then you think about an alumni of this program, Michael Parsons, doing that right now with Dallas.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, it's day 3 of practice. I'd love to talk about practice. I understand the question, and we don't get a whole lot of opportunities to kind of interact in the off season and talk about these things. But what I'm trying to do is trying to get our team, which we've done a really good job. The leadership has been great about this. We have very structured in-season kind of plans of when we do football, and then a small window of time of when we do NIL and those other things. But it's obviously a part of college football, and I do think your point is a good one. I do think it prepares them for their futures. Went through this a couple years ago with Saquon. Obviously, there's some things going on with Micah, and we had a chance to speak yesterday. But at the end of the day, again, we're in football season right now, and based on how the calendar stayed the same, we're going to have to deal with some of this at the end of the season. But I sure don't want to be dealing with it right now during camp, and I sure don't want to be dealing with it, during the season. And I think that was a big part of our success, because we've all seen a ton of programs that have not handled this well, and it's become a distraction, with the coaches and with the locker room. And I think we're in a good place. with those things. So, but I understand the question.
In the front, in the right, Neil.
Sorry, Greg.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
Maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't.
Neil?
Age, yeah. James, just
What did
wondering,
you say?
how are you? I said age trumps.
Oh, age. Neil, how are you?
I'm good, James. Good to see you.
You too.
You mentioned, quote, where you want to go. Are you guys more comfortable with the expectations this year? And how much has that been addressed with the team?
Yeah, I think you guys have heard me say this. I don't really feel like the expectations have changed. The expectations in the Lash football building are always high. The expectations in Beaver Stadium are always high. The expectations in this community are always really high. That's a big reason why I came here. That's a big reason why our players chose here. To your point, are there more conversations and maybe heightened conversations going on nationally? Yes. But I think last year's a perfect example, right? We were a drive away from playing for the national championship last year, and 99% of the programs in the country would be jacked about that season and how it went. And I don't know if that was necessarily the case here, right? We went 13 games, and like I mentioned, we were a few points and a few drives away from playing for the national championship, and people were pissed. That's what you sign up for when you come to Penn State. So those expectations are always really high. We've been to a bunch of New Year's Six games before that, and again, a lot of programs would die to go to a New Year's Six New Year's Six game or win a New Year's Six game. And we've done that fairly consistently, and I wouldn't say it necessarily feels that way. So, I would not say it feels any different within our building, with our coaches and with our players. But I will say this, all the hard work that they have done, the number of guys that decided to come back, they've earned those types of conversations and that attention. But I would also say to you, which I think you heard me say before again, no one cares about preseason rankings. Like, I'm not going to frame the preseason rankings and put it in my basement in a man cave. No one cares. No one cares. So all that's wonderful. We want to spend our time working on the things that are going to allow us to do the things that we want to do this year, starting with Nevada and creating the habits and behaviors that will get us there. Not talking about, not spending a ton of time talking about, goals and those types of things. There's a place for it, but we're focused on what we have to do to have the type of season that we want to have.
Correct.
12 years ago in a lot different spot with your offensive line. So how do you feel that will play out this year in terms of a number of guys who play from a snap perspective, and then specifically right tackle with two guys who are essentially starters back? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, totally changed. But when I got here again, people just kind of brush this over like no big deal. But we had 4 offensive linemen, I think, was the number when I got here in the entire program. And I think now we're at like 22, 25, something like that. I would love to have had Salver, 12 years ago. He'd have been starting at center.
Good size.
Huh?
They got good size.
Yes. Yeah. Just don't have very long arms. You have trouble reaching the keyboard right there, to be honest with you. But we're in a different spot, right? So that's not just good for our offense, that's good for our defense. That iron sharpens iron every single day. It also allows us, when we talk about all the different weapons that we have in terms of wide receiver, running back, tight ends, and trying to get them all on the field. You guys also saw us last year do some 6 offensive lineman sets. That is obviously helpful from a scheme standpoint, but it's also helpful from a development standpoint. When you can get 6 and 7 offensive linemen on the field, allows those guys to get some playing time. Same reason why you put 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time. It's a way to get them some significant time rather than a late game blowout and things like that. So there's tremendous competition. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. Donko was playing as well as anybody in the country before his injury. Rucci comes in and finishes the season as well as any tackle in the country. And then we got some young guys that are fighting and battling, them as well. I would also say, you guys know this, we've worked hard at creating position flexibility. So a guy like Donko also has the ability to play inside. So, what we're trying to do is how do we get the best 5 guys on the field, and then how do we also create depth, with whoever our backup tackle is gonna be, whoever our backup guard is gonna be, whoever our backup center is gonna be, the next best offensive lineman to get on the field. So, all those things we're trying to figure out, during training camp.
On the right, Tyler?
Hey James.
Hey Tyler.
How are you today?
Good, man, how are you?
Asking about a couple of linebackers we didn't get a chance to see in spring. You didn't get a chance to see them on the field either, with Tony and then Amari Campbell. We saw this morning actually Jim named Amari his defender of the day for practice 1. So what has he shown your staff so far, and then how has Tony looked getting back into the mix?
Yeah, Tony, really played most of last year with an injury that he could play with, but an injury that affected, he was not 100%. So being able to have an off-season, surgery and get him right, he is strong, he is fast, he is confident. Obviously, year 3 for him, played as a true freshman. So he's in a really good place, and we're anticipating him having a big year, but he's still got to go out and do it, But he's been very intentional all summer. Been impressive so far in camp. And then when you talk about Amari, he's been a pleasant surprise. Played a ton of football for his previous school, and we thought those things would translate to us, but you never really know. Once again, a mature, older player who's taken the right approach since he stepped on campus, and I think there's some excitement about him right now. So he's created another level of competition that we hoped we were going to get, but you never truly know until these guys show up on campus. And he's doing some nice things. He's really doing some nice things. Tested well this summer. He's explosive. He's fast. He's powerful. He's kind of compact. You guys will see him. He's not one of those 6'3", 6'4" guys like some of those guys we've had in the past. But he can cover ground, and he's got really good instincts. You can tell he's played a lot of football. That's going to be valuable for us, going to create some really good competitions. We talk about Rojas and DeLuca and Campbell and Wiley and Specca and Nelson. There's going to be really good competition with those guys, and Jackson, and then obviously some of the freshmen too. So it creates another layer of competition that we need.
In the right middle, Bob?
James, how you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
Good. You had touched upon Tyler, obviously moving on to the pros. How would you assess the tight end room going into camp, the depth that you have? And I wanted to get your thoughts on what maybe a guy like Luke Reynolds, who had benefited because Andrew actually unfortunately got hurt last year. He got a lot of playing time. It looks like he's added some good weight. What he can do for you, and just your thought on the tight ends overall and their impact on Andy's offense.
I guess the first thing I would say is I don't think enough people talk about Khalil Dinkins. Khalil Dinkins did all the dirty work last year. Every time we threw the ball to him, I think it was a touchdown. That's a little bit, being a little dramatic there, but caught a ton of touchdown passes. His touchdown to catch ratio was really good. Big, strong, physical, and his improvement in so many areas since he stepped on the campus has been dramatic. I think he's got a very bright future. I think he's going to have a great year for us, and I think he's going to have a chance to play for a long time in the NFL. Rapp's another one. Rapp, was in position to play a ton last year, so losing him was significant. But to your point, we've done a really good job of recruiting and developing at that position, and Luke was ready to go and really flashed at times and did some great things. He's bigger, stronger than he was. Rapp is obviously hungry as heck to get back out there. And I think we're going to be in a position like we have been the last couple of years to have 3 tight ends that we feel like we can win with. So, I'm a big believer, as you guys know, in true tight ends and the value that they can bring to your offense. When you're when your tight end is really a big wideout, not as valuable. When your tight end is a slug and is just a blocker and is not a receiving threat, he's an extension of just the offensive line. That's not overly valuable either, but Ty Howell and our staff have done a really good job of identifying, recruiting, and developing true tight ends that are critical to what we want to do on offense. So those guys will continue to play a major part in our offense. But again, I think you guys know this too, is we're going to play to our strengths. If our wideouts are our best unit, we'll be in 11 personnel. If our tight ends are our best unit, we'll be in 12 personnel. If our running backs are our best unit, we'll be in 20 personnel. So they're not just competing with guys at their position, they're competing with who's going to be that 11th player to put on the field, the third wide receiver, the second tight end, or the second running back. And as you know, we'll do a little bit of all that, but it's important that we figure out what our identity is going to be and what puts us in the best position to be successful. That could also change a little bit game plan week to week as well.
Got time for two more. Over on the right, Johnny.
Hey, Johnny, good man. How are you?
Good. As Jackson and Ethan look to separate themselves in the backup quarterback battle, what are you looking to see there? And then is it necessary for that backup job to be decided by week 1?
Yeah, so, that one in the spring was really tightly contested. I thought Jackson would be rusty coming back. He wasn't. He had a great spring. So we're gonna, this thing's, I think, gonna go right down to the wire. Depending if it finishes up like it did in the spring, it could continue throughout the entire year. If it's close, there's a gap. But if it's close, I think the competition could go throughout the year. Whoever has the best week that week is going to get a backup quarterback type of deal. Just based on how close it was this spring. Obviously, we have all the data to back that up as well in terms of completion percentage, third down percentage, touchdown to interception ratios, all those metrics that we all know are important in evaluating the quarterback position. Eliminating 3 and outs, those types of possessions, and then we've talked about this before. Whether it's an interception or not, we also grade interception-worthy throws or interception-worthy decisions. Okay, just because the DB dropped the ball, that was still a bad decision or a bad throw. So having all that data to try to compare and contrast is valuable, but we'll see. Again, it could be there's a gap, by one of them, and it's clear who the number 2 quarterback is, or this will go through the season. To be honest with you, if it's close all season, it could go in the next year. In terms of how this whole thing plays out. So they've both made it interesting. They both have traits that you get excited about. So it'll be a really important competition. I would say that across the board, right? The 2s and the 3s, you guys don't love talking about that a whole lot, but it's going to be critical to our season. Who's the 3 running back is going to be critical. Who's the 2 quarterback is going to be critical. Who's the 5th and 6th D tackle, and 5th and 6th D end is going to be critical. That's going to play a huge part in our season, and then being able to get all those guys reps in the first 3 games so we can evaluate them not just in practice but in games as well is going to be important too.
Last question, Audrey.
Hey James, how are you?
Good.
Good, thank you. I wanted to ask about your safeties and kind of how do you feel like maybe what excites you about that group? Maybe who are some of the guys that you're hoping you can learn a little bit more about this preseason?
Yeah, so, Wheatley, you guys all know a ton about him. He's played a bunch of football here. I'm really proud of him. His growth and maturity since he stepped on campus. I was giving him a hard time earlier today. Year 1 and year 2, we had some knock down, dragouts. Is that the expression? What's the expression?
Yeah.
Is that right, Rich? And we have a great relationship now. He understands what the expectations are and the standards, and is leading, and is just high production, low maintenance, and I'm just very, very proud of him, and I think he's gonna have a huge year. You guys all know the ball likes him. He's one of those guys, he's just always around the ball, got great ball skills. I think he's gonna have a big year for us. And then there's a battle, right? You got Mac, you got Lane, you got Belgrave, and you got Torrey that are really battling for not only that other starter, but also for who the third safety is going to be, who the fourth safety is going to be, and who the fifth safety is going to be. We also have some flexibility a little bit too, depending on how we do things. Some of those corners or nickels could play into this as well when you sit here and you say, how do we get the best 11 guys on the field? If our third corner is clearly the next best player over maybe the second or third safety, then we got to decide how do we get all those guys on the field with the two corners, the nickel and the safety. That's going to be really important. How do we get those 5 guys on the field and into the best spots, and then how do we create depth behind them? So it'll be an interesting battle, but Mac has been really good. I think he's happy being back. I think it's also been important. He's provided some really good messages for our guys that the grass isn't always greener. And Day Lane is super talented and is growing up every single day and being more consistent. We're excited about those other guys as well. Belgrave Shorter's had a great off season. Torrey is a man of few words and is very businesslike and attacks it the right way. And Payne has shown some flashes. So we need those guys to continue headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. See you later on this afternoon.
See ya, thank you.
If you guys were wondering, you get to turn the mic off. If you guys were wondering if I got bigger, just wearing a smaller shirt. I've always been a tweener between a large and an extra large. I put the large on. I got over here. I'm like, I should have put the extra large on. But yeah, it's not. I have the no curls, just a smaller shirt.
Wear with confidence. Just go.
But I'm not.
With it. You're
That's very clear.
That's right.
That's Nate's plan.
Thank you. What? What about?
My question,
Because I was gonna go.
I was like John doing. I was gonna do user safety, so I just started talking to them. Comes out.
Dude, I was gonna sort of say you don't want Sabr, he's gonna ban me.
That's actually pretty true.
Bad back and a bad attitude.
I was a sophomore at Penn State, so theoretically,
Yeah.
it was an option.
You gave a good answer.
He did.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's, you all know, ladies in the region. I spread my work with little gender.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody. Hello. Good to see you guys.
Please raise your hand. We'll take a mic to you. Anybody? Start up here with Pickle.
Pickle.
How you doing? How you doing, Coach?
Great, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Coach Franklin just talked about your backup quarterback battle and how that could play out for quite some time. Just from your perspective, coming out of the spring, how impressed were you with where Smolik was coming off his injury, and Grunkemeyer obviously with the experience he got in the postseason, and where those guys improved since then?
Well, impressed with both of them where they were, how they left spring, and then going into, through the summer, because you know, there's a lot of development that does occur in the summer, and so as guys did it, what you look for. And actually, I talked to the offense about this, and this really applies to everybody, not just those two positions. But you know, nowadays, fall camp is a continuation of everything that we did in spring through summer into fall camp. And, you know, before, when there was no ball that you could use in the summer, you know, there was very limited time with the players. There's still limited time, but it was like you had to start over. You had to really evaluate where everyone was at. Now we haven't had that, so I've been able to see those guys make incremental strides throughout spring and summer. And sometimes when you are in it all the time, those incremental strides and improvements, they're not as noticeable until you start going against the defense. I think both those guys have done a great job. Their grasp and understanding what we're doing offensively specifically is higher for sure than when the year 2025 started. And it's very evident with their approach to, you know, preparation, meetings, how they handle the huddle, you know what I mean, all those things. It's very evident. So looking forward to that battle continuing. I think, you know, this program is all about competition, and you know, when you have competition with the quarterback room, I think that's awesome for the whole organization.
In the middle here, Max.